What is going on, everyone? Astrologer Eric Rosen here. Also going to start, putting it out there, my shamanic practitioner services, energy work, because, I show up, I do the astrology, but it's so much more than that. And of course, all that stuff's on my website, astrologybyericrosen.com. But astrology is the hot thing, so that's where I show up. But just know that if you're struggling during these times, you need help, reach out. We're talking about the eclipses. It's interesting, very, very Pisces-like, right? Lunar eclipse in Pisces, very like third eye celestial stuff. Getting some Scooby-Doo action, a little bit of like the ghost hunt, the fears, the phobias. Very low octane fuel of Pisces. Like if our soul is being fueled by fear right now, or the mystery, like trying to figure out the unsolved mystery, we're pretty much just duping our own soul, because we're not really able right now in this energy to find truth. Because the North Node in Pisces, this lunar eclipse, is kind of like saying the unconscious mind is going to show you that there is a boundless field of possibilities in the universe, right? Now, it can be hard to time those things, right? Like, when can dreams actually come true? What is the divine timing for actually building dreams, especially with Saturn there? It could be all the positivity of that selfless service of Pisces, that faith, that connection to God, connection to the spirit, where we really just allow ourselves to glow up into the energetic vibration that is available to us. It's like very celestial connection, right? But like, what really gets in the way of that? It's that heaviness of fear. It's that lack mentality. It's that, oh my God, like what is happening? I can't really feel my way through this fully. And so I would say the biggest thing, to look at as we're approaching this lunar eclipse in Pisces on the 5th is like purging the fears that are in the body. Fears, the traumas, there sort of needs to be a lie detector test that we're doing by getting more rooted like into the somatics of the body, because otherwise we can go a little bit too far out there. Lunar eclipse in Pisces is definitely about a purge of all the irrationalities of life, the fears, the phobias. Could even be stuff connected to past lives, but it's like it's designed to get to this more comfortable spiritual place where there is like an alchemy of like going into the fear and alchemizing it in the body, and actually getting into like what is actually, I would say, in a sensitive fashion, emotionally sustainable in terms of like what we can actually do in this reality, and to like not create the discomfort by chasing the pipe dream that we're not actually able to build. Because what's really eerie about this eclipse season with all of this is that it's happening at a time where Saturn just retrograded back into Pisces. We're going to have Uranus retrograde in Gemini on the 5th, and then pretty soon Neptune's going to follow next month. And so we're going back to old energy that we've been really used to, especially since 2011, 2018. But so we're in that revisiting that old world. It's kind of like, we're trying to figure out the chaos of all this energy of like, where the fuck is this planet going? Where is society, the world going? Where is our personal lives going? How do we show up and take more charge and initiate and actually build a solid foundation into this new reality? And then we've got to like take a break from that and kind of go back into the foggy, haunted house, place where it feels like murders fucking occurred, and somehow like put on the fucking hat of being like pretending that we like the mystery of things, of like solving the murder, like solving the crime. And so this is actually subconsciously where we commit crimes against ourselves, where we self-sabotage, where we hold ourselves back. Now, it's not about like trying to shake the bushes and try to like shake the truth out of us, because that is a fool's errand. We will only get like fragments of it. What we really want to get to is the true essence of our soul, of what it is that it's wanting to create during this time, in kind of this more moment to moment fashion, and to be like, okay, well, I understand that some things have to rewind and go backwards, and there's unsolved mysteries and pieces of our soul fragments that we got to figure out, some final lessons that are deeply spiritual in order to actually hold the vibration, spiritually speaking, to actually like achieve those dreams. And so like nothing that's happening in life right now, no matter how intense and kind of like the cartoon character, kind of like, you know, like it's all by our soul's design to put that on our path to kind of self-actualize more into like, are you really ready for your dreams? Like, can you really hold them? And so this isn't about, you know, just trying to control the narrative and, you know, try to keep things held together, nor is it like thinking that we've got to like do some like crazy, like outlandish thing to like make life pop. It's really just about seeing that like, okay, as everyone's going through their own phases, everyone's having their own experience. Some are high, some are low. Sometimes people are experiencing those lows in private. Sometimes people are more open, but there's a very cyclical nature, and it's almost like the energy is just slamming into each other like collectively, and then sometimes we can feel those what feels like celestial car wrecks, and we have to be really discerning about where the energy's at. So this brings us back to like the simple nature of rooting into the being of the body. It's like pulling the higher self and the oversoul like into the body. So during this time, there's really no shortage of grounding practices that we could do, you know, maybe writing exercises, you know, going back to some of the spiritual basics of the tools, because it's always a shakeup during eclipse season. It's like nothing is settled. The universe is pulling things out. And so it's like this 2-week period between this lunar eclipse in Pisces and the solar eclipse in Virgo, which I'll mention, that it's kind of like nothing is settled. It's a combustion chamber of raw energy. And the nice thing is that we can surrender to it. It's almost like very efficiently pulling out old strands of DNA that's like rooted in slave codes and fucking just thinking that the pure right thing to do is to just like keep slaving away in life, like just keep working, and then you'll get there. When that old reality is like ending, and it's more about the inspiration of your soul of like the boundless possibilities, but then there's the knowing that we're going back to the old world. And so it's not about quitting on things and quitting on the inspiration and quitting on the freedom and the possibilities of things moving forward. It's just kind of being like, okay, you know, like it reminds me of like Mario. It's like, I need a mushroom to clear that jump. I need to be big Mario, or I need the rocket boost or whatever. It's like Mario Kart. I got to like go back and like grab that thing in order to like really clear the hurdles that are required, because this is a really big game that we're playing these next couple of years, stepping into our spiritual avatar and trying to fit into this human body and actually express, whether that's like through, you know, family stuff, our business, our community, like all the things that exist in the physical. But it's like the transmission of the energy is what is ultra important. So we have to like be okay with taking this eclipse season to dump out the shit. You know, another metaphor would be like the canister, the trash can that like gets stuff in it, and then occasionally you gotta like take it out because you don't want to buy a new one, or the store is closed and you gotta like actually hose it out. But it's like it's a nasty job. And so that's what this could feel like with the lunar eclipse of Pisces, of like, God, I gotta go in and like purge all the creepy crawlers, and I know this breed of bugs, I've seen this before, and it's like, is it gonna go the same way again? And the answer is probably yes, unless we like learn the lesson, because it is Saturn and Pisces now retrograde. So it's like we're doomed to fail and repeat the same cycles and patterns and self-undoing, unless we see that like the insanity of doing the same thing over and over again, trying to get the, you know, different results, is really just at this point in time with this astrology something we do when we like are frozen. It's almost like it could be a freeze response, but even the fight or flight response, a trauma. And so it's like not knowing what else to even do, like not even being able to like really lean into like what else it is that we could be doing. And so we just repeat the same thing over and over again because we can't see through the fog of our own fears. So we have to face the fears. So I'm experimenting with like curtailing these horoscopes, more to people that are creatives, entrepreneurs in business. So what I would say is that, just like I put up in a written post yesterday, it's like not making irrational decisions, irrational fears, like ghosting, being the entrepreneur, the business owner, whatever, that's like contracting, like getting into a contracted state over fear and not showing up at all. And it's just like, it's pretty simple. You face the fear, because we're at like DEFCON 5 status. Like anything that's like showing up in the outer physical reality, like business, the finance part of it, any of those hiccups, like bottlenecks, they still exist in the being. And that can suck to hear, because it's kind of like, well, fuck, how much more Pisces spiritual lessons do we need? We've already had almost 3 years of Saturn in Pisces. We still got Neptune that's got to revisit it now, in the North nodes of Pisces for this lunar eclipse, to be like, haha, like we still got some more Pisces stuff to do. Like, is it your illusion of your dream coming true? Or is that just like running from the fear to try to like get to a place on planet Earth where things like feel somewhat like normal? And it's like, good luck with that. We can't do that. And we all have to have compassion for each other and talk about that stuff, and actually, be honest about like what those day-to-day changes look like. So it's like, I'll throw the one out for me. It was like today, it was like trying to discern truth in a situation. And it was like the left and the right side, the opposite sides, very Pisces like, and seem just as real. And that's like so Pisces, North Node, lunar eclipse in Pisces. It's like you don't really fully know. And so it almost like behooves us to be like okay with the open-endedness of things, like being open to, I don't know what the factual like reality truth is. It's South Node in Virgo, it's North Node in Pisces. So this lunar eclipse is like, hey, you can actually create a better foundation, become a better spiritual expression of self by facing those fears of like needing to know exactly what's going on, especially like in the outer reality, and root more into like, what is really holding me back, and really face those fears. Because that's really the biggest thing of this, is like, if you want to move forward on the new earth, you want to move forward in your business, like relationships, anything that it is that you're wanting, it's on the other side of facing the fear, and I know some of that could just be pinned on a fucking meme somewhere, but it's like, it's what the astrology says. But I'll say this too. We're getting to the point where if we can be okay with these final lessons, where it kind of seemed like being the leader, the business owner, the creative, the light worker, whatever, that feels like we've already got the education, but like we're willing to lean in and do the bonus courses for mastery, and throw out those buzzwords of like self-mastery, ascended mastery, like magician shit, where it's just like, well, yeah, I mean, in 2025 and beyond, it's like you want to succeed during these more tumultuous, like change-making times. That magic of that magician archetype, or that high priestess energy for the feminine, where it's like you have to know how to maneuver the energy out of the body of fear by blanketing it with some love and compassion. So if you're someone that's like feeling like pinned down by your fears or traumas right now, reach out for a session, astrology or otherwise, and like take care of that stuff, or at least find a support system to work through it. Now, it's not about cycling over it in the mind over and over again. It needs to be felt. Like when I say face the fears, like the traditional thing is to be like, okay, I see the fear and I'm just going to persevere through it anyway. That won't work. We have to feel it. It's a purge, it's a release. We're releasing a lot of collective trauma too. The fears that we've held on to for centuries of, being more free, open spiritual beings, being free to connect in a more empathetic, kind way. It's almost like kindness is at the bottom of the list societally right now, and has been for some time. It's kind of been a dumpster fire, and it's been a lot more about judgment and criticism. A lot of that's fueled by illusions. Not everyone thinks that way, but it's like the rhetoric that, you know, it creates mental laziness for people to just think, oh, well, I'm just going to do it this way because, you know, that's the rhetoric that I've heard. So I think we need that reminder. You know, as far as like big life decisions in business or otherwise, it's like, if you can, instead of like trying to force yourself to send that big email or make that big decision, if you can wait, take a fucking nap instead. Because with all this purging energy and all this higher dimensional light that wants to come in so that we can raise our vibration and attract in our aura, and for it to finally get fucking easier to where we don't have to fall for this matrix 50-hour-a-week programming and work so hard just to survive and to actually thrive, it's like, go do the nap, the meditation, like find the flow. This is about finding the flow of like what your intuition and your soul is calling you to. It's not about going, well, you know, I will just succeed if I just do all of these things. It's so soul depleting, let me tell you. And I see it in so many people where it's just like, you know, we have to find that current of flow of how we're maneuvering through time and reality. And what makes it difficult is we can't do it through the mind. We have to kind of like go more into like what's not feeling comfortable and feeling into the fear first, and then the alchemy leads us to the other side of it, and that's where the energy gets freed up. It's where energy is less constricted. We're not feeling like the contracted entrepreneur. There's more optimism, right? And so it's one of those things where it's like, I would love to be like, yes, beautiful lunar eclipse, Pisces energy, and be your, you know, fucking pop astrologer. But it's like, it's with Saturn and it's lunar with the North Node. Like, you can't feel enough right now, right? Like the feeling, the sensitivity, the facing the fears, even if they're rational or not, like you can't do enough of that right now, because it's almost like a scrubbing of the central nervous system, of the auric field of our energetic being. Now, here's kind of the ruse, right? Where it's like we could kind of get upended a little bit, is like remembering that if the whole point of like everything that it is we're doing to keep the vibration in these higher, more ecstatic states, ideally, or at least, you know, working to get there, to alchemize it, to express that as a soul embodied, as that leader, as that creative entrepreneur, business owner, light worker. It's like going into those spaces means that those higher vibes look like kindness, selfless service, just like a spiritual optimism, love, compassion, empathy, joy. So it's not so much about, we don't have to go on a hunt, either the hunt for what's the next thing that's going to move my reality forward and chase a dangling carrot, nor is it like, let me go search for the next layer of shadow work. That's crazy. It's like, it's more so about going into the inner states of self, because that's what Pisces is, and especially with it being the moon, the lunar eclipse, it's like we have to really teach ourselves to be emotionally compatible in this reality now with the frequency that we want to put out, by understanding what's going on in our inner world. Like, what is actually happening there? And it's Pisces, so it could feel way up, way down, very, very chaotic. And with it being a North Node lunar eclipse, it's kind of like, it's a banger. It thumps hard. It's like the bass dropping on a fucking, you know, like EDM song or, you know, fucking electronic dance song. It's kind of like, it can be exciting and get us in motion. And sometimes that's part of like moving fear through the body, is just like getting into some ecstatic dance flow or some type of like movement. But some people don't like that type of music, and they don't like that. They want like slower rhythmic stuff. And so we can have that here in Pisces, and ideally that's what we get to. But it's like the parts where we have to face the unbecoming shadow side that like wants the highs and lows, because that's what we were conditioned on, is like the fear. Like things can start to become more beautiful, but it can also feel maybe like complacency, because it's like being so used to having to troubleshoot and figure everything out, which brings me to the solar eclipse in Virgo, because it's like not about taking things so serious to always be fixing things, that there's an aliveness that just comes from the acceptance of just being alive, of just like, whatever, okay, your job's mediocre, doesn't mean you can't feel alive and accept it. It's like, okay, you're in this situation on this phone call with this person, and you know, it reminds me of like credit card got declined and you gotta like call the company. It's like holy shit, you know, it's like, my money okay, you know, like what's going on here? But it's like these mundane moments, like still being able to like accept that's what's showing up in the reality, and that there's a gift there. And so it's like, instead of chasing the big dangling carrot of like the dream coming true, it's kind of just like, oh wow, God gave me like a little baby carrot, you know, like to sustain me on my journey. And so it can feel like that a little bit of like spiritual resourcefulness, of having to like find that tenacity, that commitment, that discipline within ourselves to stay spiritually poised, to not slip into, well, let me just go do all this stuff and figure all this stuff out and manifest all this stuff, and then that's gonna like make things great. And that would be like going from being like a spiritual master to like a shopping spree in the 80s or something, like getting all like the boombox and like the old equipment. It's like, well, what are you going to do with that? You can't even, there's no outlets. You can't even plug that in the 5D and the 7D in heaven. So it's like this raising of the vibrational state that's available to us. A lot of it really is just surrendering to letting that vibe come in, and the rooting and the grounding, because eclipses are working for us. The universe is working for us. It has an innate plan, especially with Saturn consciousness. It knows what the fuck it's doing, but we don't really. So it's almost like going in for a spiritual procedure, and you know, sometimes the nurse tells you, hey, you might feel a little tingle here, but that's normal. And sometimes they don't say anything, and then you have to interpret it for yourself and be like, was this normal? And it's like, well, okay, I guess I can surrender. I'm in the care, and I'm in a sensitive spot here. It's weird, but you know, I'm okay with it. I feel like I'm being supported. I'm getting the like medical attention. It's like very like Virgo Pisces. And so this is also us learning very deeply to not pathologize like our circumstances, like the things in the way that they're showing up. There is a possibility with this lunar eclipse that there could be some exposure of things that are more kept in the dark, you know, like lies, secrets, that sort of thing. But it's such a slippery slope, because it's so easy for that to plug into the unconscious projection of what we want to project to keep us safe, or that's like, it's familiar, like it's comfort zone familiar. And that's weird, because it could be Texas Chainsaw Massacre familiar, of just like the adrenaline rush. And you know, and so I would look at this more as like the eclipse, that it's like, if it shows up as a conversation like at the dinner table and it's actually spoken, then you know, that puts it into the reality of things. But if it's like coming from anywhere out here in the auric field, I think there's just a ton of distortions that are happening right now, and that we're sort of like bleeding the brakes and like learning to like figure out like what we actually need to stop and delay in our lives and say no to from more of an intuitive place, to be like, you know what, like that's just not good for me anymore. It's not about trying to figure it out. It's actually about like radical spiritual responsibility and for our spiritual mission to be like, I can't repeat that pattern. I'm a no to that. That drains my energy. And so we have to be like really fucking real during this time and be like, is this obviously my spiritual path purpose? I'm building that. I'm doing God's work and the service, the business that I provide, what I'm creating, it's inspiring, or is it like I'm using my decision-making capacity and my power to like go into some like shiny light thing that's kind of like, it can almost like dupe us to like, well, you know, like I deserve a break, or like there's this great shiny thing over here, it's so beautiful, and it's a little bit more hard-nosed. And so this could even bring up the things that we like to do where there's even lessons in that. And so that could be learning from the challenges that come up, like work, finance, but like same thing, relationships, the challenges could come up there, our family situations. Like the more we can embrace the challenge and what can feel like the suck right now, the easier this eclipse portal will be. Because it's really not about trying to fix things or address the symptoms of it. It's really about the universe sort of washing and cleansing us to show us like, what are the things that maybe we've hid from in the shadow, and in order to like hold things together and to accept that there is a spiritual calling to go, hey, like on the other side of this fear or this pattern or this shadow is your most unfettered, awesome spiritual self. But Saturn's like, hey, you got to do the homework first. And this North Node lunar eclipse, Pisces is like, yeah, like there's a release happening, and it can feel, it's so big. With all this astrology, it could feel like maybe not the ocean, but at least like a big lake, like the old cartoons, like some cartoons, like there's a like a bathtub. It's like they pull the drain at the bottom of the lake and it like drains the lake, or like drains the ocean. It could feel that way, like kind of having to like drain the pond, drain the lake, but it was getting a little swampy, like with all of our fears. And so we almost have to like be okay with like however the purge looks, the emotions, the feeling, the sensitivity, in order to bring in the higher felt emotions so that we don't stay stuck in the middle. And that being stuck in the middle would be the person that's on the sideline afraid to do anything, because there's a knowing that we're in a new world, but we're also heading back briefly and exploring an old world, and then not wanting to place our bet on either side or to like look at it or put the effort into it. So and more of a, you know, like if you were to ask me just in general, like, well, how do I manifest my business, do X, Y, Z, or I'm thinking about these things and this and this and this. It's really so personal to what's showing up in your life as a being that your business is just going to be a fucking mirror, even though it can feel like a distorted, broken mirror a little bit. And so really the discernment and the clarity comes from is the things that you're doing in terms of that, like coming from your soul, an expression of service in that way, and you're just bringing it into the physical, or if you're still treating it like a job, a means to an end, task list, a daily routine, there's going to be distortions and there's going to be things that are not working in those areas, or it is working, but it feels like stress, it feels like burnout. So this is the recalibration period to get right as a soul, to express that service, that business, that creation in a way where we get the fuck out of our own way more. And it exposes the light of like the perfection is the illusion through the mind that it needs to go a certain way, when in reality it really comes down to like we don't need that in the way, we just let it channel through us. And that can be a little scary because there could be times where it could seem like it's not polished enough, or it's not enough of this, or it's not sustainable, or like all these doubts, right? All these doubts that come up. But that's just like showing us like what we're cleaning out of the canister I mentioned, cleaning out of the trash can, hosing it down. It's like those doubts, those fears, those phobias, that the thing that we feel called to do has to look a certain way, or if it doesn't go right, we're fucked. Because again, Saturn at the end of the zodiac in Pisces, it can feel that like, whoa, you know, reminds me of like the person like wobbling on the cliff and trying to like tilt back so they don't fall forward because they're on their tippy toes on the edge of the cliff. And, you know, the easiest way to, you know, fall back and get on solid ground is to have someone pull you up. So mentorship, if you need someone, if you like, find an ally, find someone that knows how to like, if you fall in the face of mud, like pick you up out of the mud and be like, hey, like remember, like we signed up for this, like this is no joke that you're here in 2025. And some people, you know, can just, I hate to say it, be on the sidelines, spare parts, whatever. But for those that are like really, as exhausting as it may be as a soul, especially during eclipse season, keep showing up, you know. And things can be so intense during this time. We don't need to go rocking the boat and looking for trouble or ruffling feathers, getting into unnecessary dramas or things that feel like they're gonna, that we have to find meaning in some sensation of things. It's like the universe is going to show you where all the sensations are at that you need to feel from within. And on the other side of it, I think it's beautiful. There's no promises because we're also in karma central, right? Saturn, North Node, lunar eclipse in Pisces. It's kind of like the things that we're feeling, and I hate to say it, but a lot of it is to the degree that it's hard or it's suffering. There's a karmic element of it. Maybe the decisions that came before that, but we can't beat ourselves up about that or say that we took the wrong turn. Sometimes, like, because karma has lessons, sometimes we're just souls that choose just to learn a lot of lessons in this life. And that could have been from the predetermined stage before we got here all the way to the decision that we made last year. And it's just like the red carpet still rolls out in 2027, and there's a solid foundation to express the divine being that we are, in more connection within the community and the world as it's changing. But I would say right now, it's introspective time with all this eclipse Pisces energy. It's the hermit. It's about really going within and discovering what do we really know. Plant medicine could be, on some rare occasions, good during this time, but I think enough people are going to have their hands full anyway. You got to be a real spiritual warrior to like kind of add altered substances into the mix in order to achieve some like level of clarity spiritually. But I mean, there can be a lot of melancholy right now. It's a lunar eclipse in Pisces, and I don't want anyone to think that they took the wrong road and popped a tire and deflated themselves or feeling deflated, because Saturn was always going to retrograde back into Pisces. We were always going to have this lunar eclipse. It was all predetermined math by the cosmos, the universe. And eerily enough, with Uranus retrograding in Gemini on the same day as this eclipse, it's kind of being like, yeah, that little game that we've been playing, like spinning the wheel of fortune and just kind of curiously playing with it, or which could literally look like just playing with AI or playing with tech or playing with new approaches to life or how we communicate or how we connect. We're even just going to be rehashing how those experiments have went so far in terms of how we've communicated, how we've been connecting in those ways. So, you know, rule number one for this lunar part of the eclipse, it really is about facing those deeper existential fears in order to see what the real dream is, to actually like root into it and not go chasing ghost or try to go back into some old reality that it's like, well, if I become some sensation of achieving whatever crazy old cultural standard of like fame or fortune or something eerie in that regard, it's a fool's errand. You know, we're more on equal playing fields now of like looking at this as like, if you didn't have, it's weird, but it's like if you didn't have a physical body, you know, like what is your aura? Like where are you vibrating at? And being okay with where that's at, you know, like, okay, I slipped, I'm in shame right now, or I'm in anger right now. And it's like, okay, how do I get up to, you know, courage, compassion, like higher states of being? And so it's facing that frequency, it's facing that fear. And then that's when the terrain becomes clear on like the next decision to make. And so it's not so much about, well, do I move forward in the old world, or do I need to go like restart or rebuild something in the old world, which I definitely don't think that's what it is. I think it's more just like revisiting metaphorically the housing of that for like a spiritual lesson or understanding, and then we come out on top on the other side. So it's a very abstract lunar eclipse, but it hits deeply personal on a wide variety of levels. And I think if you talk to people, you'll find that everyone's experience of this energy is going to be really different, but the common denominators are going to be probably some form of like unease, fear, processing, taking time to pull away, introspection. So don't feel like you're getting ghosted, even if it's like your bestie type situation, because this is a time to like really pull back in order to like not be so busy or active that the universe isn't able to like wash out what needs to wash out, reveal the patterns, you know, reveal the cyclical things that we do over and over again that like dupe ourselves from rising to a higher vibration or reaching our dreams. So if you need help during this time, support getting through this, or even just like helping to find the, you know, terrain forward, and what's next, especially like what's next for the 6 months, is a good time for it, because eclipses, you know, create these 6 month cycles. So we're ending the last 6 months, we're starting a new 6 months. So if you want to see what's happening for your next 6 months of your life and your astrology, reach out for a reading. And of course, check out astrologybyerigrosen.com for other offerings. And that higher self group coaching, higher self rising group coaching starts September 23rd. So that's where I teach, and I'll do some hot seat coaching with people for a bit on each call, week to week. Those will be every Tuesday in the evening. It's a just pay per month situation. So check that out. I'll have that link somewhere around this video, or maybe you got to message me for it. It kind of just depends what platform you're watching on. Appreciate you all. Stay sane. If there's one thing to like not do, it's like lunar eclipse in Pisces. It's like, don't go crazy, losing your mind because you don't know what's happening or understand. Am I coming? Am I going? Like, where's life going? It's a natural upset. It's by design. It's a natural upset of the system, of like the equilibrium of things, but then having to like admit the elephant in the room, like there was no equilibrium to begin with. It was already churning and like coming to this like boiling point of going, oh, okay, yep, it's time to get right with God. It's time to get right with spirit. It's time to get right with the universe of like, where am I really going as a spirit? Am I actually on my spiritual path? Do I actually understand like how destiny tracks get laid, and that leaps of faith come in through the intuition, and that the moment we start doubting it and then we don't do the thing is us holding ourselves back in a lower timeline and saying, I'm not ready yet, universe. And that's okay. That's okay. Like, you know, but the more resilience that we build as a soul for our fears and sensitivities of making the moves that we feel are destined in the moment, the better. Appreciate y'all. See you next.